People think Islamic history is just a handful of names everyone repeats, but the truth is the Ummah is overflowing with heroes, scholars, warriors, women thinkers, and leaders, whose lives were so full of courage, faith, and wisdom that the world forgot them. And once you hear even a fraction of these stories, you'll realize that greatness was never about fame, money, or status. It was about heart, action, and faith. Take al-Mu'tasim, the caliph who sent an entire army just because a Muslim woman's honor was at stake, proving that defending the weak is the truest mark of power, or Fatima al-Fihri, who founded the world's first university while the world didn't even know the word education in its modern sense, showing that vision isn't limited by gender or time, or Imam al-Nawawi, who avoided luxury, slept little, ate less, and wrote masterpieces that still guide millions, proving that discipline and focus create immortality, or Nusayba bint Ka'b, who shielded the Prophet in battle with her own body, teaching us that courage is measured in action, not words, or Rabia al-Adawiyya, whose love for Allah transcended everything else, reminding us that devotion can make a single life echo through eternity, or Tariq ibn Ziyad, who burned his ships so his army had no choice but to fight, proving that sometimes victory comes from leaving no room for retreat, or Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, whose du'as were always accepted, showing that sincerity and faith is a weapon stronger than any sword, or Abdullah ibn Hadafa, who faced a Roman emperor with zero fear, refusing to betray Islam even under threat of death, proving integrity outlasts tyranny, or Ameen, who walked alone across the desert to support the Prophet during Hijrah, showing that loyalty and sacrifice are timeless virtues, or Aisha bint Abu Bakr, whose intelligence and memory preserved thousands of hadiths, teaching that knowledge is a tool for shaping generations, or Hatim al-Tai, whose generosity became legendary, reminding us that giving freely creates legacy, or Zainab bint Ali, whose courage after Karbala silenced tyrants and turned grief into unshakable strength, or Al-Khwarizmi, who invented algebra, showing that innovation can change the course of human civilization, or Salahuddin Ayyubi, whose mercy toward enemies balanced his unmatched military genius, teaching that true strength is tempered with justice, or Malik ibn Anas, whose dedication to preserving authentic law influenced centuries, or Ibn Battuta, whose travels across continents documented cultures, faith, and humanity long before maps and passports, or Asma bint Abu Bakr, who risked her life nightly to supply the Prophet, and Abu Bakr during Hijrah, or Al-Hazan al-Basri, whose words pierced hearts and inspired countless generations, or Imam ash-Shafi, who memorized the Quran as a child and became a towering figure in Islamic jurisprudence, or Nuruddin Zanji, who built hospitals, freed slaves, and fought for justice alongside warriors, or Al-Bara ibn Malik, the fearless warrior who turned desperate battles into victory, or Khadija bint Khuwaylid, whose unwavering support and wealth protected Islam in its fragile early years, or Julie Bibb, the humble companion whose bravery proved that small overlooked people can have huge impact, or Uthman ibn Affan, whose generosity funded armies' wells and the preservation of the Quran, or Abu Du'ana, who faced battles with unmatched confidence, leading by example, or Maryam bint Imran, whose faith and patience became a model for believers, or Musa as, who confronted tyrants with unwavering faith and miracles, or Imam Abu Hanifa, who refused power to protect truth and integrity, or Ali ibn Abi Talib, whose sermons, battles, and wisdom inspired the Ummah for centuries, or Bilal ibn Rabah, the former slave whose voice became the Adhan, echoing across generations as a symbol of equality and devotion, or Salama, whose counsel shaped critical decisions during early Islamic battles, or Said ibn Zayd, whose quiet leadership and persistence turned the tide in crucial moments, or Ibn Sina, whose medical works became textbooks centuries later, bridging East and West, or Fatima al-Baghdadi, whose poetry and philosophical works survived invasions and turmoil, leaving wisdom for future generations, or Ammar ibn Yasir, who endured torture yet never betrayed his faith, proving endurance is a form of power, or Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who was imprisoned for refusing to compromise his beliefs, or Shajar al-Dur, the female ruler who commanded armies and led Egypt through political storms in the 13th century, or Al-Farabi, the philosopher, whose work influenced the European Renaissance, or Said ibn Jubair, whose scholarship under persecution inspired generations, or Kulthum bint Ali, who turned grief into political strength after Karbala, or Al-Jazari, the engineer whose inventions of water clocks and automata astonished the world, or Nafi, the freed slave, whose narrations became part of the Hadith collections, or Fatima bint Muhammad, whose patience, intellect, and resilience defined strength, or Ibn Rushd, Averroes, whose commentaries on Aristotle influenced global philosophy, or Bilqis, the Queen of Sheba, whose diplomacy and wisdom rivaled kings, or Imam Malik, whose dedication to law preserved authentic teachings under political pressure, or Abu Hurairah, whose memory preserved thousands of hadiths, or Ibn Taymiyyah, whose reasoning challenged scholars and rulers alike, or Fatima al-Samarkandi, who taught women that intellect is a power, or Ali ibn Zayd, whose exile didn't silence his courage, or Haram, who participated in naval campaigns, or Zayd ibn Haritha, whose loyalty inspired the Prophet personally, or Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, whose guidance kept early, Islam stable, or Muhammad ibn Qasim, who led armies as a teenager and conquered lands with strategy and honor, or Atiyah, whose charity and courage saved countless lives, or Harun al-Rashid, whose wisdom and generosity built Baghdad into a beacon of culture, or Lubna of Cordoba, the scholar and mathematician whose brilliance rivaled kings, or Ibn Khaldun, the historian who created sociology before the term existed, or Khala bint al-Azwar, the female warrior who rode into battle without fear, turning the tide with unmatched skill, or Sa'd ibn Mud, whose faith and leadership brought entire tribes to Islam peacefully, or Fatima al-Muqaddam, whose writings inspired generations of women in law and scholarship, or Abu al-Qasim al-Zahrawi, the surgeon whose medical inventions shaped modern medicine, or Salman al-Farsi, the companion whose journey from Persia to the Prophet symbolizes perseverance and seeking truth, or Uwais al-Qarani, whose devotion and care for his mother taught that faith and love walk together, or Al-Mansur, whose vision built Baghdad into a cultural capital, or Fatima bint Asad, whose nurturing guidance shaped the Prophet, or Imam Jafar al-Sadiq, whose teachings influenced multiple schools of thought, or Al-Harith ibn Abda al-Muttalib, whose loyalty and courage saved lives, or Waraka, who led prayers in her home breaking gender norms of her time, or Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, who mastered strategy and diplomacy in military campaigns, or Bilal ibn Rabah's perseverance through torture, or Fatima bint Qais, whose poetry inspired warriors, or Imam Dawud al-Zahiri, whose scholarship created legal clarity, or al-Muqaddasi, the geographer who mapped the world centuries ahead of explorers, or Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, whose wisdom guided early battles, or Darda, whose knowledge and teaching empowered generations of women, or Al-Man, whose support for knowledge and translation enriched civilization, or Zainab bint Jahsh, whose courage in public debate strengthened the community, or Salman al-Muhammadi, whose strategy and insight influenced major battles, or Fatima al-Shamari, whose leadership in charity projects saved thousands, or Hazan ibn Ali, whose patience and diplomacy calmed tribes in unrest, or Abdullah ibn Abbas, whose understanding of the Quran shaped scholarship, or Hakim, whose bravery in battle inspired soldiers, or Al-Kindi, whose philosophy bridged Greek thought with Islam, or Hudhaifa ibn al-Yaman, whose intelligence gathering protected the Muslim community, or Kulthum bint Uqba, whose speeches influenced political decisions, or Ibn al-Haytham, whose scientific discoveries defined optics for centuries, or Salih ibn Oz, whose counsel prevented conflicts, or Fatima al-Najjar, whose charitable acts created lasting impact, or al-Razi, whose medicine and wisdom saved countless lives, or Kulthum bint Ali's leadership in crisis, or Abu Darda al-Ansari, whose piety and wisdom inspired generations, or Hibatullah ibn al-Hazan, whose diplomacy ensured peaceful treaties, or al-Samhudi, whose historical works preserved heritage, or Sulaim, whose advice shaped critical decisions, or Zayd ibn Thabat, whose preservation of the Quran created a foundation for centuries, or Ayman's endless devotion, or countless other unsung heroes, scholars, warriors, and women whose lives were filled with courage, wisdom, and faith, reminding us that greatness isn't measured by wealth or fame, but by action, devotion, and integrity. And if even one story sparks a flame in your heart, imagine the power when you embrace that legacy. Step up, rise, and honor the giants who walked before you. Because this channel isn't just telling history, it's lighting the spark of your potential, reminding you that the same spirit that moved mountains, inspired nations, and changed civilizations lives in you too, waiting to be unleashed. And the world will never see it coming when you do.